Let's go on with we're going now to squeezing lemons. Now, just to recap what we learned, halachos, that there are fruits which are isa deraisa to be soiche, to squeeze it out, which is zaisen v'anovim, isa deraisa, because that's basically the way how people eat it, squeezing it out. Then there are all other fruits which is not like zaisen v'anovim. It's not like grapes and olives. And if most of the people are in a town or in a city or in a country are squeezing it, then it becomes osar midrabanan. And if the whole world is squeezing it, then it goes into, according to some poskim, there are some Rishonim who will say only zaisen v'anovim. According to our poskim, which we pasken, it will come out that any fruit which is made to be squeezed, most of the fruits, and as we mentioned, we gave the example like oranges, which three oranges are, most oranges are planted for juice oranges, so therefore, what oskim says on isa deraisa. So, and all other things will be a isa derabon, except if it's only a miyat, which then we will say batladat eitzik halodam. But now comes the mechaber, Shulchan Aruch, and it says a statement: Mitter lischoit lemonas, you are permitted to squeeze. And the Ramu doesn't say anything on it. That means the Ramu agrees with the mechaber that it is no issue to squeeze lemons on Shabbos. Where is the makar of this? This is a Chivas Harash. We mentioned a little bit last week about the lemons, but now we want to delve into it a little bit more in Metzias Lamaisa. What is the makar that you are permitted to squeeze lemons? There's a Chivas Harash, which somebody asked the Rosh a question: are you permitted to squeeze lemons on Shabbos? And the Rosh answers, yeah, I will quote, Nere, Shehem Bechlal Shar Paire Shemitel Asachton, Sha'ain Derech Klal Lischid Lemon Shetzorich Mashk Ele Tzorich Oichel. Comes the Rosh and says, yes, it is no issue to squeeze lemons. Why? Zug the Rosh reason. So we're going to have three reasons why it is okay, and each we're going to see if it's so okay or not. But Hakabanim, the Rosh says, you are permitted to squeeze lemons, and it says, what is the reason? Because the derech is to squeeze lemons only for oichel, the tzorich oichel. That means, as the other Rishonim say, the Shbir Leike, the B'syasa brings down, it is only made, lemons you use, lematego oichel. You have a oichel, you want to give it the flavor, you want to give it a taste, you put in lemons. So basically the whole lemons is made for a oichel, so the Rosh is not a problem. The Radvaz explains it a little bit more, and it says that lemons is not doima like grapes and olives. Why? Because that things, olives and grapes, is made for mashka. Masha einkein lemons, although you make it for a mashka, you squeeze it out and becomes a mashka, but since you squeeze it out in whole bottles and you sell it as a liquid, but since what are you using this liquid? Only for a oichel, and as the Lusha, what he says is letabel boy oichel. That means the minig used to have, dips, and the dip used to be lemon. So therefore, the whole inyan of achilas lemon is, or like the Shbir Leike says, to be sweetened food, put it into foods, or even if you want it, you dip it into food. So the whole lemon is made basically only because of oichel. But therefore, it's not an issue to squeeze lemons. That is the heter of the Rosh. The Rosh says again, Nachmu, because it is made, although you make it for a liquid, it is made only for food, therefore it is considered like a food, and it's not an issue. Now, comes the Bes Yosef, and it says this is a good reason, but this reason is not applicable in our time. The Bes Yosef, in his time, you're talking about 500 years ago, says it's not applicable in our time. Why? Because in our time, we don't only squeeze lemons for food, lamatigo oichel, or to dip it in. We squeeze it into water, because we want the water should have a flavor of taste. Lemonade, we have water, we put it in sugar, and then we squeeze in a lemon. So therefore, this is not a good reason, because it's made only because it's not necessarily made to make oichel, it's made to make a drink, lemonade. So therefore, that's not the reason why we could rely on in our days. So he comes with a different reason. He says, the reason is the problem is only when you squeeze it in order to be squeezed for itself. But since you squeeze lemons only into water, because the minig used to be that you have a water, you put in sugar, and then you take a lemon, you squeeze in the lemon into the water. So since the whole inyan of squeezing the lemon is only going into another water, going into a mashke, you don't drink it, so to speak, without that. So therefore, it's not a problem. So what is the chiddush over here in the Bes Yosef? Although a person, takes a lemon and squeezes it out, and he makes it basically for a mashke, he puts it into seltzer, he puts it into water, it's not a problem. By anuvim v'zaysim, remember we learned last week that what you could take a grapes and squeeze it out, but it has to be into a pot of food. Why? And we explained, because since the lemon is food, the grape is a food, when you squeeze it out, it becomes a liquid. That's schitta. What's schitta? Schitta, spiders means you have a salad, you have a food, you squeeze out the liquid, it becomes a mashke. So making a mashke from a food, that's schitta, that's issa deraisa. Zukt of them, the Rishonim, basically in the Gemara, but Mechaber Paskin, that when you take the grapes and you squeeze it into a pot, and as I gave them an example, what people do, you squeeze in onto fish, or you squeeze onto steak, you want to have the grape, whatever. Such a case, not a problem, because it is a oichel, goes to a oichel, that's not a problem of schitta. Comes over here, the Bes Yosef, and gives a big chiddush. We are talking about lemons, we should putting it into mashka. And if this is the case, when it comes to grapes, if you take grapes, you squeeze it into seltzer, you want to have grape juice with seltzer, which is so popular, if you do it, it's chayiv chatas, it's a deraisa. Kimt of them, the Bes Yosef Tana, when you coming to lemons, it's not an issue. Why it's not an issue? Because you're squeezing it into mashka, and since you squeeze it into mashka, it's not a problem. That means like this. What does it mean to say? When you have a oichel, when you have a fruit, which is during the weekdays, you squeeze it into a. I want to give the explanation. When you have a fruit, when during the weekdays you squeeze it in a cup, empty cup, like you squeeze grapes, you make grape juice. Then even if you squeeze it now, you're going to squeeze it into water, it's going to be a problem. And another problem is the rice. But when you have a fruit, which the whole way how to do it, the only way how to squeeze, you never squeeze it in an empty plate. You only squeeze it into water. In such a case, it's not an issue. It's not a problem. So since in Mitzrayim, the Bes Yosef says in Ba'as Mitzrayim, the minig is they used to take lemonade, used to make water, put in sugar, and then squeeze in the lemon. So therefore, the whole way how to squeeze lemon is in order to go into the water. So therefore, it's not a problem. Kimt of them the später die Gachroinam and says that this second reason which the Bes Yosef says doesn't apply to our days either. Because we, not necessarily, the way how to squeeze lemons is always in water. We squeeze lemons. We have bottles and tankers with real squeezed lemon, which you buy in the store, and you use it for whatever you want to use it. So it's not the pshat that this is the way lemon always was squeezed into water. The Bes Yosef's answer is, but since the lemon is that you squeeze it into water, so therefore it's not a problem. But if the practice of the Matthias is not like that, so there's no heter. So the second reason which we said, which is the first reason which the Bes Yosef brings down, doesn't apply nowadays too. Because nowadays too, we squeeze into empty cups, and it is, and so you don't have this heter because you squeeze it into water. What?
People don't drink an empty cup.
I understand. Oh, so but the B'si Yosef's answer was, since by us in Mitzrayim the way how to drink it is you squeeze it into water. That was the B'si Yosef says.
Even when you drink, you only drink it with water.
No, because we squeeze it into water. Not we drink it with water. We squeeze it into water. This is the Lushan. I'll tell you the Lushan. Ve'efshe deloi mitzer, elu kishesochtim, it's only also kishesochtim mayim of levad. Va'achakach ma'arvenois, and then you mix it. Aval im minik lischid mayim v'tach mashka achar, the whole way how the minik is how to squeeze it is right away into second mashka. So therefore it's not a problem. So in our case, we don't have this heter. So the B'si Yosef gives a third reason, which is your reason. B'si Yosef gives a third reason, which says, since mashka of lemon is not made to drink as it is. Nobody drinks lemon soda, lemon, squeezed lemon just like that. That's not the minik. If you have somebody who's going to do it because he has a sick or he has a health reasons, but it's not a normal thing. So the only way how you use lemon is when you mix it together with something else. So since that's a different reason than before. Before is the reason the way how to squeeze it is squeezed into water, which doesn't apply nowadays. But when it also comes the third reason. Lemon, you don't drink as it is. So it comes lemon, you always mix it in with other things. So therefore, it's not a problem. So the B'si Yosef is machadash that any fruit which it's never meant to eat the juice, to drink the juice as it is, and it's only meant to drink with something else, that is not an issue of schiita, and it's okay. So we have three reasons. Let me just go it over. The Rosh says the reason is because since you squeeze lemon only in the it's only made for food. That means to dip into the lemon your food, or to put in lemon in a food in order to have good taste. Therefore, that's why it is mutter. Kim the B'si Yosef says nowadays that's not the way how we eat lemon. It's not only because for food; it's also for drink. And the way how the drink it is that you have a bottle of water or a fuss of water, a whole bucket of water, and you squeeze in the lemon. So therefore, that's the heter. Because you don't make it in an empty cup, it's not decided it's not to squeeze in an empty cup. So therefore, it's not a osir. And therefore, it's mutter. If it would have been decided to squeeze it in an empty cup and then pour it into something else, then that's a problem. But since decided is not like that, so that's why it is mutter. So now again, Kim and Achronim say that's not practical nowadays either. The heter is not either. So third reason is B'si Yosef says is since the food is not made, the whole thing is made only to drink with something else, and therefore that's why it's mitter. So that's why the Machaba paskins and the Ramud doesn't disagree with him. Mitter lischoid lemonas b'Shabbos. You are permitted to squeeze lemons on Shabbos. Comes the Rebbe, what?
How did it come to drink olive oil?
Oh, kimt of them the Rebbe the Tzemach Tzedek and the Chai Udam. But the Tzemach Tzedek says, what kind of business? The Tzemach Tzedek comes very harsh on B'si Yosef and says, what kind of business is this? What's your heter? What is the heter? The heter is that you never drink lemon for itself, it's only made with water. So the Zayis and Vanuvim has the same problem. Not only Zayis and Vanuvim has the same problem, the Gemara says, the Gemara brings a machloikis, that according to, what's the name of according to the Blazer, if you drink wine, if you didn't pour in, you didn't moizik wine, you don't make Burpi Agufan. You have to be moizik in it. And even in our case, that we paskin that even when you're moizik, you make still a gufan, but that's the norm how to do it. Kosher brucha has to have a maziga. Kosher brucha has a maziga. Only you paskin when it's not so strong, you don't need. The way how they used to drink the wine was the way out by basing moizik with water. So what do you say that the sibah why the squeezing grapes is adaraisa because you don't drink it with something else. Masha and lemon, you only drink it with something else. It's made for the drink. You don't drink like yourself. Why not you don't drink like yourself? So what's going on? What's with bottle? Only with water. But wine, if wine doesn't become bottle. You eat grapes, but the squeezing when you squeeze grapes. You squeeze grapes. And Nishdik Mura Zukt are still 6 times as much water. That means a sixth is the grapes, 6 times as much as water is still a Bora Pia Gufan. That's the way how Moizik. That means you have 6 times as much water as the grapes. That's the norm. And you don't say it becomes blood, you say that's wine. And therefore, it's over Issa Daraisa. So frag this Rebbe, I don't understand. If the whole reason is because you don't drink it by itself, only when you mix it with other water, and that's why lemon is mitten, anuva should be mitten, and anuva is Issa Daraisa. So therefore, the Tzemach Tzedek has an issue with this answer too. Now, the question is, it's such an obvious question. It's such an obvious question. And how come nobody mentions it? Mitzat Choymer Akishya, we have to say there's a difference. It may be the Mendis. When you drink wine, even if you put in water 6 times as much, what are you drinking? You're drinking wine. Kavanus is wine. What is the Iker? You're drinking wine. It's strong. You put in water. You put in water to dilute it. It should become geschmack to drink. But what are you drinking? You're making Kiddush on wine. You're making Abdullah on wine. When you have a lemonade, you drink water. You put lemon in order to give it a taste. What is the Nikida? So that's why the B'sas of whole, that's the difference between Schitas lemon and Schitas Hanufim. Because it's a big difference. What is Iker? What is the Iker Kavanuse? What is the Iker reason? What is the Iker Chashivas? So therefore, that's the Chilik. But after all, the Tzemach Tzedek asks this question, and the Tzemach Tzedek does not want to be mekabel this heter. Kemiv, the Tzemach Tzedek says it's also no medrabonon, it's not Issa Daraisa, but he holds it's also to squeeze lemons as it is. Now, if you squeeze it into a pot, it's like grapes that you are permitted to squeeze it in a pot, as we learned last week. That's when you take grapes, you squeeze it into your cholent, yeah? And then not a hot cholent, because then you go over a shal of bishul, then it's not an issue, because it goes from oichel to oichel. But Tzemach Tzedek says itself, squeezing lemon, it is an issue. You cannot do it. You can only do it into food and not eat it k'moshehi. Yeah. Of course.
Without mixing it?
Of course, avada. Great, must. This is what my megit is must.
So
Kiddush Abdullah.
So when you squeeze the grapes, it's not meant to be mixed with water. It's only meant to be mixed with water after it becomes wine.
Yeah, but Yaim Megit is not the chshivas. Yaim Megit that's not why you make grapes. Grapes you make for wine. Yaim Megit is a second class, so to speak. It's a schwacher Sache. Okay, but the Nekitzat Vurim is that basically you see that wine, most of the wines were squeezed in order to mix with water. And after it became Zuxas, he said rice.
It's mixed with water, not other things.
With water, okay. With water. So over here, lemons also is made to make with water. This is the Tzemach Tzedek's question.
It's different. Lemons is different.
Because
when you squeeze the grapes, you can drink it without mixing it with water.
Yeah, but your people, that's not the way how most of the wines are made. Most of the grapes is made in order to mix with someone else. Now, that's most of the things. So therefore, I don't understand. If most of the things is made to something else, has to fall weg the heter. Now again, this could also be maybe an answer. So du can man es essen. Over here you could drink it. Over here, lemon, you cannot drink it. Okay, could be, there's a reason. It's also a cheshbon. And we have to get some kind of answer because it's a that the B'siyasa should say a reason, which is they have a Ferish Gemara which says that wine you should dilute with water, and that was the kosher brucha is mitzvah and a mivcher. It should be like that. So akapunam. So this is the reason the mechaba passed mittalis lemons. Now the question is, if we could rely on this lemon, on this mechaber. Now, I'm not coming from the Tzemach Tzedek now, but let's say not like the Tzemach Tzedek. Let's say the whole world, which I'm not meshubah. Let's say to the Tzemach Tzedek. Even then, is a little bit a problem to rely on this halacha, b'pashtas. Why? Because it's not clear when the mechaber says mitter Israel lemonas. Did he only meant the third reason? Or he also, since he had also the second reason, because he brought the second reason too, in his time, that second reason was applicable. So therefore, you don't know if the Mechaber meant the Kavona, why he was matar lisr lemanas. Maybe the whole reason was only because he had two reasons. He had the second reason, he squeezed it into water. He had the third reason. So therefore, and that's why the Mishnah Berurah and a lot of other poskim have an issue with this Mechaber to pass like this, because we have two reasons, and maybe we have three, but I could put them the first reason, the B'Yosef line pushed it away, but the second and third reason the B'Yosef goes, and it's not applicable today. So therefore, it's not poshut that you could rely on it. No, so the Shulchan. So the Shulchan doesn't want to rely on it. It says maybe we need also the second reason, which in our case we can use. We cannot use because we do it that way. So therefore, it's not so poshut. Benoisef to the Tzemach Tzedek, which he has an issue. I want to say, even if you don't want to go according to Tzedek, it's also not so clear that you could rely on this lemon, to squeeze lemon, in order to use it as Shabbos. So it comes in very interesting. So you see a very interesting thing, that we going over here, the machlokas over here, is menakutza lakutza. That means it comes a very interesting thing, that the matirim which are matter to squeeze lemon, which hold it's heter gumar. It's okay. The Mechaber zuk mit lischet lemanas. It holds heter gumar. And according to the people who say it's a problem, they will say even it could be a Isa Daraisa too. Could be a Isa Daraisa too. Because Adrabah, why? Because since lemon is a thing which you always use for squeezing, as remember by oranges, it's always used for squeezing, and now you squeeze it for itself, it's going to be a problem. Could be Isa Daraisa. And we have some poskim which will say that's a Shama Isa Daraisa. The Tzemach Tzedek doesn't want to go that far, that lemon should be Isa Daraisa. But when you go into according to the whole Sigir, which we learned last week this week, we're going to see that according, if you don't go with the B'Yosef says it's mitalik tchila, and look at other poskim which don't want to rely on this B'Yosef that you could rely, because they say that we don't have all the hetayram. What is going to be? It's going to be a Isa Daraisa, because lemons is a thing which is like oranges we mentioned last week, which most ribike killer is made to squeezing. So therefore, and you squeeze it without in a cup, empty cup, you have a big problem. But Lamas Tzemach Tzedek says that it's only a drabonon. But it could be a Isa Daraisa. And that's why we see the Yavetz, he writes, I want to quote his Losh, because he was very sharp. We all know he was very sharp, but whenever he writes, but he says like this. I want to quote his Losh. Yavetz says it like this. Lemanas einem nachulem k'moy shehen. Lemon you cannot eat k'moy. Nobody eats lemons like this. It's made to take out the water through squeezing. When you squeeze it, you make a meluch b'Shabbos. And he says, not only it's chiv chatas, the B'Yosef says it's mitalik tchila, and he says not only is Isa Drabu like the Tzemach Tzedek, he says chiv chatas, Isa Daraisa. In ma shekusi v'ra B'Yosef, what the B'Yosef lilmet chiz an hagen boy heter. There's the B'Yosef says a limit chiz that the people are Michael. Lo nechnas ba'oznai, it doesn't go into my ears. Kasher na mai deusher. Anybody who is a bit looks into the sigya and he has a straight mind will see it doesn't make sense. Ibe mechvilas kvoidoi. And how do you say mechvilas kvoidoi in English? Sorry. I'm really, really sorry. Kirav. Shafkia behulich sidusa. He forgot, he left over his chsidus. Shekovel heter b'shichnurich. He said in shichnurich heter. V'shana b'stuma k'moishe p'gabira. And he says halach it's mutter, like Moshe Rabbeinu said b'shem da'ibishter, it's mutter. B'li choylik. He doesn't bring any choylik. Ibe'emes is it oser? Afile yotze baskol. V'tirihi, even if baskol will come out and will say it's okay, I'm mashgichim ba. You cannot mashgich. And we can understand the Yavas in a way. you can understand a little bit the Yavetz, because he says, if practical, it's made to squeeze by itself, so therefore, what was the Hateritzes? So Lamasa, again, we, as Lubavitch Chassidim, for sure, we have no heter to squeeze lemons into an empty cup. Now, I just want to remind you, in 1 minute, before I lose my throat, that even while the world is Michael, squeezing it into sugar, and then putting into the sugar into the water, which a lot of persons say that's fine, because you're putting it you're squeezing it in from a oichel to a oichel. The Tzemach Tzedek, as I mentioned last week, the Tzemach Tzedek has an issue with this too, because he says, what do you mean you're squeezing it into here? Where is it meant to? It's meant to go into water. It's meant to go into a mashka. So just because you put it on a sugar, and right away you're going to take the sugar and put it into the mashka and become a mashka, that's okay? So he has an issue even putting it in to sugar, which you're going to put the sugar into lemonade. Even that we have an issue. So again, we have no heter. Let me make it clear. We, Lubavitch Chassidim, have no heter to squeeze lemon into make lemonade. The only way which we are allowed to squeeze lemon is, as I mentioned last week, you have salmon or whatever food you have, you want to squeeze from the fruit on the food, that's fine. Because that's even mitter for grapes. Because it goes from oichel to oichel, yeah? Is it clear? So therefore, we have no heter to make lemonade on Shabbos. The only way, except, again, if you have the bottles of which is squeezed before Shabbos, I'm talking about taking a lemon, squeezing and make lemonade. We have no heter to make lemonade on Shabbos. But it's interesting to note, I'm going to bring it to your attention, although the Yavet said it's a daraisa, the Tzemach Tzedek says it's machmer, but Poyel we see, by a lot of Chassidim, it was mitter. We see clearly, by a lot of Chassidim, it's gewei mitter. There's in Mesgeres HaShilchen, the famous Mesgeres HaShilchen, he gave Mesgeres HaShilchen al the Kitzur Shulchan. We all know it, which brings a lot of Alter Rebbe. He writes Bebedinusayni, which he was basically in Poland. He says Bebedin, a little bit after the Tzemach Tzedek. He writes Bebedinusayni, in our Medinas, Haminig lahater lischat lemonet latochmaim. The minig is, it's not an issue to squeeze it, but he says latochmaim. He says like the second heter of the Bes Yosef, squeeze it in the tochmaim. It's interesting even more, the Shenevaruf had a son which passed away very young. He was a young man, and they printed a sefer for him, Ayola Shalicha. A sefer that Shenevaruf himself, his father, Shenevaruf was the son of the Samzaruf. And Shenevaruf took all the ksuvim which from his son. He wanted to be should stay from him something. It's called Ayola Shalicha. And he has over there a tshuva, which says, it starts, Bidvar Halucha Hanuoig. I'm going to write, to explain the minig of squeezing lemons on Shabbos, which says Shulchan Aruch it's mutter, and I'm going to explain it. So now you have to realize Shenevaruf Zazin, which grew up by his father, grew up by his grandfather, the Divrei Chaim, which were all Gdoyle Torah and Nigla, grew up by the Yispach Moshe, grew up by the heavy shuras in Nigla. So you see, it was the minig by some Chassidim that you should squeeze lemon. Not only that, one of the tzanza Einiklech is interesting. The Kol Shitzaruf, he passed away before. I think he got killed even by the Holocaust. He once asked from people, he wants to have a tie, and you should squeeze in a lemon. And he added on, anybody who is machmar, he doesn't want to do it. This machmar should give it for someone else to do. Is machmar for himself that he doesn't want to do it, should give it for someone else to do it. But I need a tea with lemon. So we see al kaponam, the minig is the machaber says you could squeeze. Now again, they have all the right to go according to the machaber. So I'm just bringing your attention. Sigvenas am minig to lemon is only by lemon. Other things you cannot do it. Let's make it clear. Other things you cannot do. Any fruit which it's made to squeeze is or a isa deraisa or could be a isa derabunan. Depends on the machlokes of the shoynim. but only when it's not made to squeeze nor a meat, then it's going to be mitter. But over here, clearly mitter is lemonas, therefore. But again, I want to make it clear again. We don't have this heter. We Lubavitch Chassidim have no heter because it's a tzedek. Where? Oh, da bring a Polish. Okay. Yeah. But Lamaise, today's day, ich will das damals sagen, today's day, sagen the Achronim, the minute today's day is, you don't do it. All the stories which are brought is all before the Second World War, before the Shoya. Today's day, all the Achronim asking that we don't do it. The only way how that you are permitted to do it according to other Achronim, and that's how people will do it if you squeeze it on sugar, and then you use the sugar for lemonade or whatever they want. That is a mukim yesh mukim hukel, because after all, saf kasaf, it is ma'oichel to oichel, and that's fine. I just want to make it clear, but to squeeze it into honey is an issue. To sugar, it's fine, but not to honey. Some people will put it into honey, but that's not good, because they want to put the honey also inside. It's not good, because honey is a mashke. Honey is from the Zayim Mashkem, so that you cannot do. It is only that you could do it, lemon, if you squeeze it into sugar, and the sugar you put in, according to the other chassidim. According to us. The what?
What does he say? Squeezing lemon.
I don't know. He doesn't have a sefer on Hilchos Shabbos. The second have a sefer. He has a sefer Hilchos Shabbos only the Erev Shabbos, Night of Shabbos. He doesn't have on the Malachos yet. It's not yet out. We'll have to look when he comes out how to do it. But yeah. He's a big yadin. So
does the Yavitz hold that lemon is not oichel?
The Yavitz hold it is oichel. Why not? Of course, it's oichel. If it's not oichel, then it's not the Isa Deraisa.
No. That would be the answer to the real thing.
The lemon itself is oichel. The lemon itself is oichel. Squeezing out the liquid is schiete because you make mashke from an oichel. That's the whole schiete.
If it's not an oichel, like a wheat chaff.
Like a?
If it's not an oichel, then it's even worse.
If what is not an oichel?
If the lemon is not.
Why isn't it an oichel? Nobody said. No. Everybody holds a lemon is a oichel. What does it mean? That's oichel. What does that mean? It's not nechel k'mo shehi. Nobody squeezes out the lemon in order to eat it. But nobody says that a lemon is not a oichel. It's in fact a oichel. The question is, the mashke which comes out is bapashtas, a mashke which comes from a oichel to a mashke. A mashke which comes out from a oichel, that is schiete. That's a schiete. When a oichel comes from a oichel, that's not schiete. So therefore, if you squeeze lemon from a lemon onto sugar or onto a food, onto a cholon, onto meat, that means it goes from oichel to oichel, it's not an issue. It's not, that's mittelik tchila. The problem of lemon is because you squeeze it out, k'moishi in a cup, it's a liquid. So if you do it on a sugar, that's oichel no oichel. A chitz from the tzemach tzedek, which holds, since it goes right away back into a mashka, it's also considered a mashka. A kapunim edrebunim. But a kapunim, so the Ava says, the Messiah Yosef wanted to go a step further. Messiah Yosef wanted to say, take a lemon, squeeze it in a cup. So what is this, a mashka or what? What is the lemon which is squeezed? A mashka or not? It's a mashka. Zug the Messiah Yosef, no. Since the way how to eat this, since this is the way how you use it, only by mixing it with other things, only by mixing with water or with other things, so therefore, chonish kan problem. But nicht geasset auf azamizach, nor when this is a mashke k'mo shehi. When you squeeze the mashke k'mo shehi, you can drink it like this. So then it comes into a mashke. But if it is not made to drink like it, although you're putting it into water, and that's a mashke, but sof kosov, it's the cider azoy to do. So automatically you have a cheshkanish. That's the Messiah Yosef. Kinder emnes as what kind of business it is. Why? What's the b'shad of him? Why should be such a thing? Du kim de em. Why should there be such a thing? So therefore, he says, Chashashani mechatas. Because you have a mashka coming out from a oichel, that's a shalaf and a chatas. And even if the tzemach tzedek is not a drabonon, but still a drabonon. But the other poskim will hold, no, like the B'si Yosef says, a mashka, which is the only way how to use it, is by mixing it not by itself, automatically hot chashivas for a mashka, therefore it's not an issue. It's a chiddush. It's a chiddush of B'si Yosef mechatish. It's not a poshut zach. So just to sum it up, the Machaba paskins regularly lemons you can squeeze. And what does it mean squeeze? Into a empty cup. Into an empty cup. Now first he wanted to say the heter is because what the Rosh says you could do it, because the Rosh says you could do it. He wants to say the reason is why the Rosh is doing it because it is you squeezing it into water. That was the meaning in Mitzrayim. So therefore he says no problem. Whatever comes into water, it's not a problem. Then he says another reason, even if you don't do it into water, according to this, I want to make one thing clear. According to the B'si Yosef says, since you squeeze it in usually in the water, so then it's not an issue. What does it mean? It doesn't mean that the heter is only when you squeeze it into water. According to the second pshat in B'si Yosef, the second reason which we said, the first pshat in B'si Yosef, what do we say? What's the heter? The heter of the B'si Yosef is, since the cider is to squeeze it into water, so therefore it's not a problem to squeeze lemons. Wait a minute, you said in the Shulchan Aruch mitzvahs lemon, you didn't say it has to be in water. Because the B'si Yosef holds, since the cider, the derech is to squeeze it into water, although I'm going to squeeze it in a cup, it's not a problem. Because the Mechaba says mitzvahs lemonas, it means into an empty cup. It doesn't mean into water. He gets two reasons to heter. One reason is since the cider, the derech, how to squeeze it, is into water. So although you do it not into water, that's fine. And the second reason which he gives is because, also why I could squeeze in the empty cup, because it's not made to eat like this, only when you mix it into something else. So there's two reasons. In that, the reason, that once you have the reason, it's mutter to squeeze it in an empty cup. Of them came the Yavas and says, how could you do such a thing? Squeezing in an empty cup. You cannot do that. Now, if you squeeze it into water, then could be you have two reasons. Side the second reason, which we mentioned, the third reason. That means both reasons of the B'si Yosef. Kenzan, this is what the Mishnah says. When you have two reasons, then I could understand. But with one reason, I don't want to understand. Tzemach Tzedek wants to say, even the one reason, I'm not happy with it. Aber Akapunim, in Zaman Verstein, it goes Manakutza Lakutza. The Chaber says it's Mitel Gitchila. And some poiskim, like the M and even some Rishonim will say, Chashash Chatas.
So does Yaakov Emnon use the Lashon Einei Nachal K'may Shehu?
He goes on the B'si Yosef. He says, I quoted before the Lashon. He says, the Lashon is, Lemonas eine Nachulem K'may Shehen, Ele Oimdim Lehoitzim Amayim La Schiita. Yeah? It's made to make al da Schiita. He says, "Faked, val, it's not decided to make it, and it's made to make the liquid. It is like oranges. He wants to put it into a chatas. Remember? Last week we mentioned that oranges in nowadays will be a chiv chatas. Why? What?
Any fruit.
No, not any fruit. Only a fruit which the majority of the fruit is planted in order to make juice. And orange juice is the majority of orange juice is for juice. If you have other things which is not grapefruit, it's not the majority for juice, it's not Issa D'Oraisa. But oranges is a thing which, according to Google, most of the oranges is made for juice. Yeah? So according to Rav Rishonim, it's going to be Issa D'Oraisa. Kim the Emne said, if you say that lemon is not made to eat like this, and it's only made in order to according to do for something else, is the pshat is that means you don't eat a lemon like it is. It's only made it's like orange. So it's like orange.
So when he says Einei Nachal K'may Shehu, does he mean like a bean in a bean pot? So
what do you mean a bean pot?
beans, like peas, they grow in a
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
So pea pods, they're edible.
Oh, you're talking about Bishul Yisroel, Bishul Akim is a different halacha. No.
Pea pods are edible. The bean pods are not edible.
Okay.
So if you take beans out of a bean pod on Shabbos, you're mefarik eichel pselis.
Okay.
It's the issue deraisa.
Okay.
So if he's saying that lemons are unedible, then you're mefarik eichel mitech pselis.
I hear it. Okay. Du is am Euchels man can essen. The answer is the part you cannot eat. This you can eat. You don't eat it because it's not made to eat, but it's a mach. You're touching a different subject which we have to go into in Me'ez Hashem. Why isn't every schitta a problem of boirer? That's a separate reason which we will have to delve in. Every schitta is a shale fin boirer euch mitach psoiles oder euch mitach psoiles. Why don't, when we squeeze out a thing which is mitted to squeeze, whatever heter we have, or that's not decided to do, or I'm squeezing it into sugar, but there's a problem of boirer euch mitach psoiles. So I don't want to touch this now. This is a separate subject. Ich kim no zu der Nekide of the Indian of why he holds us a chiv chatas. Since you're not eating it, so it means it's planted only to squeeze, only for the liquid. It is like an orange, which orange is the rice. So Lamas, again, just to sum it up, we Lubavitch Chassidim for sure cannot make lemonade from a lemon, and even when you put it into sugar. But even the whole world, Lamasa minigo oilem is today's day, that we don't squeeze lemon. The only way what we do it is, again, that you squeeze it into a oichel, that's mitzvah chaladais, that's mitzvah even according to us. You could squeeze it in a lemon, you could squeeze it into salmon, you could squeeze it into a pot of food, whatever it should be, that is not an issue. Not into a mashka, or sugar which goes into a mashka. So that was, or you could put it in into in a tea, a piece, and it will suck out. That's also fine. It's eine, nicht other heter.